I took a week off work to escape my busy life. I drove out to a cabin I rented in the Appalachian Mountains. I was excited to unwind and capture some great photos. I figured the remote location would be perfect. Honestly, I was just looking for a peaceful retreat. I still think about that week and what happened. The drive down the gravel road felt eerie. The trees closed in around me. The cabin looked old but charming. I dropped my bags and glanced at the wooden beams. They had carvings on them, but I figured they were just left by visitors who came before me. That first night, I began to feel uneasy. The woods were too quiet. The shadows felt longer than they should. The next day, I went hiking. The sun was bright, and I felt good being outdoors. But when I returned to the cabin, I noticed the carvings. They looked different, more pronounced somehow. Maybe I was imagining things. Still, a chill settled in the air. Around midnight, I woke up to noise. I heard footsteps outside. My heart raced as I listened. I stepped out to check. The silence was thick. I thought I saw something move by the trees, but when I looked closer, nothing was there. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just the woods. But it didn't feel normal. The next few days, things got stranger. I started hearing whispers. They seemed to come from deeper in the woods. I tried to follow the sounds, but they slipped away like smoke. It was unnerving. I could almost make out words, but I couldn't tell what they were saying. Every time I ventured out, I felt like something was watching me. One morning, I hiked to an old campsite. I saw fire remnants and felt that familiar watchfulness. I couldn't shake the feeling of being observed. I turned back, but the forest felt alive, as if it were tracking my every move. That last night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I heard the footsteps again. They were closer this time. I held my breath and peeked outside. A figure stood just beyond the porch light. I couldn't see any details. Was it a person? I opened the door and stepped out, but by then, there was no one there, just the trees. Then I recalled the markings inside that cabin. They felt like they were calling to me. I wanted to leave. Still, I found it hard to walk away. Questions swirled in my mind. What was real? What wasn't? Now, even after all this time, those nights haunt me. I think about that figure and the whispers I could almost hear. I still don't know what I encountered there. What scared me more was how drawn to the place I felt. Did I imagine it all, or was something really there? I can't shake the feeling that I left something behind in those woods. The next day, I decided to face my fears. I couldn't leave without understanding what was happening. I packed my camera and ventured back into the woods, determined to confront whatever lingered there. The morning sun felt reassuring, but the deeper I went, the heavier the air became. The quiet was louder than ever, pressing against my ears. As I walked, I kept an eye out for the carvings from the cabin. Maybe they held some secret. Curiosity nagged at me. I stumbled upon what looked like a small clearing, and to my surprise, I found more carvings, etched into trees surrounding a moss-covered stone. They were older, weathered, but the symbols felt familiar. My heart raced as I recognized some markings from the cabin. Had I walked into a ritual site? I knelt down to inspect the stones closely. Each carving seemed to depict a figure, perhaps a person, but the features were exaggerated, almost monstrous. As I examined them, the whispers returned, swirling around me like a lost breeze. My pulse quickened. I couldn't understand the language, but I felt the urgency behind the words. It was as if they were trying to tell me something. Just then, I heard a snap of a twig behind me. My stomach dropped. I turned around slowly, scanning the trees. Nothing. Just thick woods and shadows. I shook my head, trying to calm myself. It had to be my imagination, but the feeling of being watched crept back. I decided to head back to the cabin before dusk, sensing that staying out longer would only invite more strangeness. When I finally returned, something felt off. The door was slightly ajar. I couldn't remember leaving it that way. My instincts screamed at me to leave, yet a strange compulsion kept my feet rooted to the ground. I stepped inside cautiously. The air felt thicker, charged. Then I noticed a change. The carvings inside were more vibrant, glowing softly as if they were alive. I stepped closer, goosebumps prickling my skin. Had I dreamed it? I reached out and touched the wood, but a jolt of electricity shot through me. Images flooded my mind, a vision of the figures from the woods, twisted faces and outstretched hands. I staggered back. Suddenly, the whispers escalated into frantic shouts, echoing off the walls. I could almost understand them now. "Leave!" they screamed. "Get out!" Before I could react, I swear I felt a cold breath on my neck. I spun around, heart pounding, and found the door swinging open behind me. I could hardly breathe. The shadows danced in the corners of the room. I backed away, the whispers morphing into a chorus of terror. When I saw it, a figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the fading light. It was taller than a man, its features obscured. Without thinking, I bolted past it, racing into the night. I ran back through the forest, branches scratching at my skin. The woods were alive, rustling and moving as if they were intent on stopping me. I finally reached my car, fumbling to unlock the door. My hands trembled as I started the engine. Looking back, the cabin stood ominous against the moonlight, and I felt a pull, a deep yearning to go back. But the whispered warnings rang in my ears. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was in those woods had not let me go. What had I disturbed? I needed to know. But as I drove away, I realized something. I wasn't just leaving the cabin behind. I might have carried a piece of it with me. I drove for what felt like hours, my mind in a haze. The road twisted and turned, but I couldn't shake the image of that figure standing in the doorway. My heart still raced as the cabin faded from view. I hoped that distance would ease the urgency pulling at me, but it only intensified. When I finally reached town, I parked near a diner that looked as if it hadn't changed in decades. I needed to gather myself and think. As I stepped inside, the bell above the door jingled, and a wave of warmth washed over me. I took a seat in a booth at the back, my eyes scanning the room. A few locals were chatting, their conversations low and casual, but I felt the weight of their glances. "Coffee?" a waitress asked, her smile friendly but her eyes curious. I nodded, barely meeting her gaze. As she poured, I knew I needed answers. I had to find out about the cabin and those strange carvings. "Do you know anything about the old cabins up in the woods?" Her eyebrows knit together. "You mean the one that burned down years ago? That place is cursed, they say." I leaned in, intrigued. "Cursed? Why?" She hesitated, glancing around. "People went missing. Strange noises at night. It's best to leave those woods alone. Did anyone ever find out what happened?" The questions fell from my lips without hesitation. "Just stories, whispers of an ancient ritual or something," she replied, shaking her head. "You don't want to get mixed up in that." My stomach twisted. The whispers, they hadn't just been in my imagination. After finishing my coffee, I decided to look for the local library. Maybe there'd be more information tucked away in the archives. I found it down a side street, an older building that felt lived in. The librarian was a stern woman who seemed to know every inch of the place. "Can I help you with something specific?" she asked, barely glancing up from her desk. "I'm looking for anything about old cabins or rituals in the area." She paused, skepticism clear. "There's a legend about those woods. It's not just a story. It's deeply tied to the land." I explained what I'd seen, my encounter with the carvings, the figure, the whispers. Her expression became grave. "You felt a connection, didn't you? The woods choose their own." "Choose what?" The chill settled in my bones. "Who belongs to them?" Her eyes narrowed. "You're not the first to seek knowledge. And those who do often find more than they bargained for." I felt the weight of her words. What if I had invited something into my life that I couldn't control? My hands shook as I scribbled down notes about the cabin and the history tied to the area as I left the library. The evening sun hung low in the sky, but I couldn't shake my compulsion to return to that cursed place. Along with the anxiety, a sense of responsibility ignited within me. I needed to confront whatever had latched onto me. Just as I reached my car, I heard it again, a faint whisper in the wind, soft but clear. "Come back." I froze. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled. Sounded so inviting, so sweet. I shook my head, desperate to fight the pull, but deep down, I knew I was going back. And this time I would uncover the truth. I'd force it to reveal itself no matter the cost. As the darkness wrapped around me on the drive back to the cabin, my grip on the wheel tightened. I felt a mix of dread and determination. This trip wasn't just about uncovering secrets anymore. It felt like a reckoning. The whispers from the woods tore at my thoughts, urging me onward. The road was more familiar now, illuminated by what remained of the fading daylight. As I approached the clearing where the cabin sat, an uneasy silence enveloped me. I parked the car and stepped out, the crunch of gravel beneath my feet amplifying the stillness around me. I hesitated, inhaling deeply before approaching the door. Would that figure be there again? The idea sent a tremor through my hands. I reached for the handle, but before I touched it, I remembered the carvings. They weren't just random designs. They meant something. I pulled my phone from my pocket, the light cutting through the shadows, and directed it to the doorframe. The symbols glowed faintly under the light. I traced one with my finger, a spiral that twisted around itself. "What are you trying to tell me?" I whispered to the darkness. The wind howled in response, pulling at my jacket as if to push me away. But my curiosity overrode my fear. I pushed open the door. It creaked ominously, and as I stepped inside, a chill ran down my spine. The air was thick and heavy, almost suffocating. A musty smell lingered, a mixture of decaying wood and something else, something metallic that I couldn't identify. I moved cautiously through the dim interior, the beam of my phone light cutting through the gloom. The furniture was tipped over, scattered as if a struggle had taken place. The remnants of a fire pit in the corner were left smudged and cold. Then, I spotted something on the ground, a scrap of paper partially hidden under a broken chair. I bent down, freeing it from the debris. A map, but not just any map. Hand-drawn, with detailed markings around the cabin and an exposition deeper in the woods. My pulse quickened. That S when a sudden noise echoed from outside, sharp and unnatural, like a branch snapping. I froze, straining to hear more. Was someone out there? I wanted to run, but the map felt like my lifeline. Could hold the key to everything. Before I could make a decision, I heard it again, a rustling sound accompanied by soft footsteps. Someone was in the woods. Cold dread settled in my stomach. Who or what was out there? Before I could react further, a figure stepped from the shadows behind the cabin. I couldn't see their face, but I sensed their gaze locked onto me. The urge to flee surged up, but the map burned in my hand. "Who are you?" I called, my voice trembling. Then everything went dark. The wind howled again, and I could only hope the whispers weren't right. Time seemed to stop. I needed clarity, but it felt like I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I gasped as the darkness swallowed me whole. One moment, I had been standing in the cabin, clutching the map, and the next, I was encapsulated by a void. Panic surged inside me. I stumbled forward, my hands reaching out to grab something, anything in the absolute blackness. Then, flickers of light pierced through the dark, swirling like fireflies. The light expanded and receded, drawing my eyes to a figure. The person stood just on the edge of the fading illumination, a shadowy outline that seemed to blend into the trees. My heart hammered, uncertainty flooding my mind. "Hello?" My voice felt weak, lost in the vastness. "Who's there?" The figure stepped closer, the faint glow revealing a hooded face obscured in shadows. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. The swirling lights coalesced into something resembling the map I'd found, only it wasn't on paper anymore. It floated midair, a vibrant outline of the woods and cabin, pulsing with a life of its own. "What do you want?" I stammered. The figure raised an arm, gesturing toward the glowing map. A series of symbols flared to life, one by one. The same spiral I'd traced earlier ignited, followed by an intricate design that resembled a tree with branches stretching outward. I blinked in disbelief. Is this a warning? A guide? A rush of questions surged through me, chaotic and wild. The figure didn't speak, but the air around us shifted, growing heavier. I felt a sudden dread creeping up behind me, like a shadow trailing my every move. The map drifted closer, and I realized what I was looking at wasn't just a representation. It held significance, routes, locations, and maybe even hidden dangers. As I squinted, I noticed red markings, XS and lines connecting different spots deeper into the forest. Then, without debate, the figure turned and began to retreat into the darkness. I felt an urge to follow, propelled by the haunting call of the unknown. I took a tentative step forward, but a sudden rush of cold air sent shivers through my spine. In an instant, the lights flickered out again, and the figure vanished like smoke in the wind. I was plunged back into darkness, my breath quickening, my heart racing. With trembling hands, I retrieved my phone, desperate for its light to dispel the shadows. The screen illuminated just enough for me to scan my surroundings. The cabin felt alive with whispers now, a cacophony of voices that pulled me closer to the edges of sanity. Then I remembered the map. My heart dropped. It lay abandoned on the floor, lost among the wreckage. I scrambled to retrieve it, my fingers grasping at the torn edges. But as I held it up, the symbols began to glow again, and I finally recognized one of them. A bold X, deep in the woods. I couldn't rationalize it, but I needed to find that spot. The urgency gripped me, and suddenly I felt a cool breeze against my neck, moving past me like a warning. Get out, it seemed to say. But the thought of leaving without understanding what was happening felt like failure. With my heart pounding in my chest, I took a deep breath and steeled myself. I was going into the woods, and whatever lay ahead, I was ready to face it. But what if I wasn't alone? I stepped outside, the moonlight guiding my way. The whispers grew louder, following me like a dark omen. I knew I was crossing a threshold. Little did I know just how deep I'd be drawn into this haunting mystery. The woods felt alive, pulsating with energy as I moved deeper into the shadowy embrace of the trees. The map, now clutched tightly in my hand, seemed to thrumming with excitement, leading me forward. Each step felt like a dare, a challenge to whatever unseen forces lurked beyond the reach of moonlight. The faint glow from my phone's screen cast eerie shapes, twisting and bending amongst the trees. I squinted at the symbols marked on the map, hoping for some clarity, some direction. I stumbled upon a series of jagged rocks forming a natural path. It matched one of the routes drawn in red on the map. A sinking realization washed over me. If I kept following it, I was heading toward the X. The air grew colder and I stopped, suddenly aware of a presence nearby. I could feel eyes on me, studying me from afar. I swung my light around, illuminating the trunks and underbrush, but the forest stood silent, as if holding its breath. I shook my head to clear my thoughts and pressed on as I followed the path. The whispers intensified. They danced around me like the rustle of leaves in a storm, growing louder, indistinct but compelling. My heart thudded against my ribs. I focused hard on the map, but the symbols seemed to blur, the lines shifting as if the map itself was alive. Then, in the distance, I saw a figure standing at the edge of an opening in the trees. Fear knotted my stomach, but curiosity propelled me forward. The figure was just a silhouette at first, motionless beneath the glow of the moon. I took a cautious step closer, the ground crunching beneath my feet. "Hello?" My voice wavered. "Who are you?" It didn't respond. Instead, it pointed ahead, toward the clearing. I hesitated, my instincts flashing warning signs, a primal urge to flee. But it gestured again, and I saw it then. It was handing something over to me, a small, glimmering object that twinkled like stars. With trepidation, I stumbled into the clearing. As I reached for it, the figure suddenly drew back, melting into the shadows. Just like that, it was gone. I felt a chill sweep through the air, tightening my chest. I was alone again, encircled by darkness. But I wasn't empty-handed. I looked down to find a shimmering key in my palm. I knew instinctively it meant something crucial. What did it unlock? I stared at the key, thoughts racing. It had to be connected to the map, to the cabin. Maybe it would reveal the mystery surrounding the whispers. But as I pondered, an unsettling rustle behind me made my skin crawl. I whipped around, heart racing. That S when I saw it, a pair of glowing eyes peering through the underbrush, unblinking and unyielding. Not just one set, but two. Panic surged through me. I had a choice. Confront whatever was lurking or run back toward the cabin. I gripped the key tightly, feeling its cool weight as a decision loomed overhead. But then everything went dark. The moonlight blinked out, swallowed by an overwhelming wave of blackness. I couldn't see anything, confusion crashing over me. I needed to move, but where? My instincts screamed at me, urging me to escape. I turned, brandishing my phone like a weapon against the dark, hoping to catch a glimpse of my watchers. I couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just watching, they were waiting. Then everything went silent. The whispers died down, replaced by the sound of my labored breath echoing in the void. In that silence, I suddenly realized I was no longer alone. I held my breath, straining to hear any sound in the hush. The air felt thick, as if it was being drawn taut around me, ready to snap. The glowing eyes still lingered, but now they felt closer, the tension palpable. A low growl rumbled from the shadows, vibrating deep in my bones. I needed to act. I quickly scanned my surroundings, searching for anything I could use. My phone's weak light flickered against the trees, revealing gnarled roots and damp earth. My heart pounded as I took a careful step backward, ready to bolt. But before I could turn, the shadows shifted. I swung the beam of light toward the sound. The glow landed on a creature, a wolf-like figure with matted fur and a haphazard gait. Its eyes were too intelligent, too human, and it locked onto mine, assessing me. Just beyond it, I noticed more pairs of eyes, peering out from the brushes, unblinking and still. My instincts screamed for me to run, but I felt rooted in place, caught in the stare of what seemed to be a pack. Just when it felt like the air would split with tension, the lead creature tilted its head, a low whine escaping its throat. It was a challenge. Was this a warning or a test? The map clutched in my hand felt heavier, the nearby trees casting long, skeletal shadows. I could either retreat to the safety of the cabin or attempt to confront the pack. I couldn't let fear rule me. I took a step forward and raised the key, hoping it would somehow affect these creatures. "I'm not here to fight," I said, my voice firm but quavering. "I just want to know what's happening." In response, the lead creature took a step closer, nose twitching, studying the key. I remembered the map, the location marked with an X. Perhaps it was connected to these beings. I pointed toward the path ahead, hoping my gesture would convey my intent. "Do you want me to follow?" Instead of backing off, it stepped closer again, eyes gleaming with curiosity. The others began to shift, moving toward me as if weighing my worth. One by one, they emerged from the shadows, revealing ragged creatures that seemed caught between worlds. There was a sense of ancient power about them. Just then, an unsettling howl echoed through the trees, slicing through the quiet. The pack froze, their attention snapping toward the sound. A mix of fear and urgency coursed through me. Something was coming, something that threatened both me and the creatures. I turned to the path, knowing I had to make a choice. Should I follow the creatures into the depths of the forest, possibly toward whatever was approaching? Or should I run back to the cabin, leaving the mysteries behind? Before I could decide, the howl rang out again, this time closer. The pack seemed to sense it too. They shifted, urgency growing in their movements as they retreated slightly, glancing back in my direction. The key felt warm in my palm, pulsing as if urging me to follow. Then, out of the shadows, a terrifying form emerged, a large figure, dark and monstrous, drawing closer with determined strides. The pack stepped back, their eyes wide and unafraid for me. They were not leaving. They were waiting for my next move. With adrenaline pumping, I made a split-second decision. The key had to mean something. I sprinted toward the glowing eyes of the nearest creature, trusting that it would guide me. I just hoped it would be enough to escape whatever hunted us. I sprinted toward the lead creature, my heart hammering in my chest. The shadows wrapped around us as I broke through the trees, hoping my faith wouldn't be misplaced. The wolf-like figure didn't flinch or shy away. Instead, It turned and began to move deeper into the forest, my instinct telling me to follow. The underbrush crunched beneath my feet, and I could feel the pack surging behind me, their presence a strange mix of safety and uncertainty. I kept my eyes trained on the lead creature, its silhouette flickering in and out of my dim phone light. Suddenly, the oppressive darkness felt lighter, more alive, like the trees themselves were holding their breath. Then came the growl, a low, menacing sound that echoed off the trees. I stumbled, glancing back. The monstrous figure was no longer far off. It emerged into the weak light, a hulking shadow with glowing eyes, surely the one from before. My chest tightened. Whatever that thing was, it was gaining on us. Come on. I urged the pack, feeling a strange bond form between us. They responded with urgent growls, urging me to keep pace. As the trees thinned, I could see patches of moonlight breaking through. Please, please, I murmured, clutching the key tighter as if it were a lifeline. Just ahead, the lead creature paused and turned to face me, its stance alert like it sensed my fear. What are we doing? Where are we going? In response, it let out a soft, encouraging whine, almost a promise that it would protect me. It darted a few paces forward, turning back to ensure I was still with it. I nodded, shaking off the dread that crept back in. I had to trust, even when terror nestled in my throat as we pressed deeper into the woods. I caught sight of a faint glimmer up ahead. It flickered like a flame, and a sudden rush of hope surged through me. Gods, was it a fire? An exit? Maybe there were other people who could help. But just then, the growl from behind grew louder, reverberating through the ground. Panic shot through my veins. Every instinct screamed for me to keep moving, but a part of me wanted to look back, to see just what kind of monster was pursuing us. That curiosity could be fatal. Instead, I focused on the lead creature, willing it not to fail me. I pushed onward and, as I rushed toward the glimmer, I felt the warmth of the key in my hand increase. It was almost as if it recognized whatever lay ahead, like it had a purpose beyond myself. When I reached the firelight, reality slapped me. Before me, a small clearing opened, revealing an ancient stone altar, covered in strange runes. The flicker of flames came from torches set around the altar. But it wasn't the altar that captured my attention. A figure stood before it, a woman cloaked in shimmering fabric, her face obscured. "You've come," she said, voice echoing through the grove like a whisper. The pack halted behind me, appearing wary. My heart raced at the sight of her. Was she the key to understanding what I was drawn into? Then I saw it, a movement in the shadows. The monstrous figure surged into the clearing with a terrible roar, all dark and angry, charging toward me and the pack. Time slowed, and I had no idea how it would all end. The altar, the mysterious woman, the creature bearing down on us. This couldn't be it. "What do I do?" I shouted. But as the roar filled my ears, everything went dark. Awareness slowly seeped back in, but I couldn't tell where I was. My heart raced, pounding like a war drum as sharp edges of fear cut through the fog in my mind. I blinked into the darkness, limbs heavy and still. The faint crackle of fire reached my ears, grounding me. Then, I heard it, a low growl, rumbling and close. Panic surged within me. My senses sharpened, and I suddenly felt the ground beneath me, damp and cold. I mustered the strength to sit up, but I couldn't see anything in the pitch blackness. What happened? I thought, panic clawing at my throat. The shadows pressed around, thicker than before. What did that thing do to me? I muttered under my breath, heart racing. My fingers brushed over the cold, damp earth, and I remembered the altar, the woman, the roar. Had that monster caught me? Focus, I told myself. I had to stay calm. As I took a deep breath, I caught the scent of smoke and something else, something musky and wild. I shifted, straining to eavesdrop on the sounds of the forest. I could hear distant hoots of owls and rustling leaves, but the growling had stopped. I dared to hope. Then a low whimper caught my attention, and my stomach dropped. I recognized it, one of the creatures. "Guys?" I called softly, my voice trembling. "Is that you?" No answer came. The fear of what lay ahead began to turn from terror to sheer dread. I shook my head, fighting the urge to scream. I pushed myself to my feet, hands bracing against the altar, feeling the rough stone beneath my palms. The torches flickered, and just then, I caught sight of movement ahead. A shadow shifted, and I felt my heart leap. The cloaked woman stepped into the glow of the firelight once more, her presence both calm and unnerving. Around her, the pack gathered, the lead creature looking back toward me, tension easing slightly as it stood at her side. The woman raised a hand, palm out, and the air around us buzzed to life, charged and thick. "They will not harm you," she said, her voice soothing yet commanding. "You are safe for now." "Safe?" I croaked, pushing the fear out of my voice. But what about that thing? I could feel its presence still lurking in the shadows, watching and waiting. "That creature is bound to this place. Like you are," she replied, eyes glimmering in the flickering torchlight. "You hold the key to understanding why you are here." I glanced at the key in my hand, feeling its warmth pulse against my skin. "The key? What does it mean?" I asked, desperation creeping into my tone. As if sensing my confusion, she stepped closer. "You must choose soon. The creature is drawn to your fear, and every moment you hesitate, it grows stronger." Her gaze swept over the pack and the altar, intertwining our fates. That S when my heart sank as realization hit me. "Stronger? So it feeds off fear?" I whispered, horrified at the implications. But before she could answer, a guttural growl ripped through the air, louder this time, echoing and resonating. I turned slowly, dread wrapping around me like chains. The dark shape swelled from the trees, larger and more menacing than I remembered. Everything went still as the air became electric. The shadows around us shifted, closing in. "No!" I shouted, ready to face whatever terror loomed. But as the creature pounced, I stumbled backward and the world twisted anew in a flash of blinding light. I gasped as the light enveloped me, swirling like smoke and wrapping tight around my body. For a moment, there was only brightness, an overwhelming pulse of energy washing over me. I felt time shift, and as abruptly as it began, the light faded, leaving me standing in a familiar clearing. But it wasn't the same once I opened my eyes. The air felt lighter, the silence deeper. I blinked a few times to adjust my sight and saw the cabin in the distance, oddly smiling under the moonlight. I was outside, yet everything around felt unnaturally calm. Had the creature, that dark figure, been defeated? The fear that once clung to me had dissipated, but the questions swarmed as I turned, scanning the forests, but saw nothing of the pack or of the cloaked woman. Did I merely dream it all? I felt the cool metal of the key in my pocket, a heavy reminder of the choices I'd yet to understand. I looked back toward the cabin so innocuous now, but lurking secrets still lay within its walls. Somehow, I sensed that I could no longer ignore the pull it had on me. Taking a tentative step forward, I hesitated as echoes of whispers surged on the breeze. A quick chill flared up my spine. The whispers seemed clearer now. "Come back," they urged, a fleeting melody that both beckoned and warned. I shook my head, trying to dispel the disorientation and remember what I'd faced. Had the confrontation altered my fate? Had I truly escaped that beast, or only temporarily silenced it? The soft crunch of leaves underfoot reminded me of my vulnerability. I approached the cabin slowly, each step resonating like a heartbeat in my ears. I opened the door, and there it was, the wooden carvings glowing faintly as if welcoming me back. The air was stagnant yet infused with a tension that hinted at unfulfilled promises. Something shifted in the shadows, and I recoiled. A rustling caught my attention from the corner of the room, deepening my unease. "Hello," I called, bracing myself. Silence followed, so thick I could cut it with a knife. Suddenly, there was a flicker at the window, something shifting outside. I leaned closer, pressing my face to the glass, heart pounding. The forest beyond looked unchanged, silent, serene, but in that stillness, the weight of 100 questions pressed on my mind. What had I disturbed? What had I invited into my life? Was the dark figure still lurking just beyond the trees? I finally stepped back, grappling with the uncertainty swirling around me. It was too quiet, which only heightened my sense of dread. With each glance at the symbols etched into the wood, I felt a nagging connection, that whatever I had seen was more than mere echoes of the past. It still felt alive, invested in something I couldn't fathom as the shadows settled. I felt a pull to head outdoors, but fear rooted me to the spot. The key in my pocket pulsed, invoking the weight of my choices. Did I dare dive back into the woods? Would the pack still recognize me? Leave? A soft whisper clawed at my thoughts, recalling that desperate call from the cabin ID fled. But wasn't I already entangled? I had tasted darkness and its whispering secrets. It thrummed in my veins. Wouldn't escaping mean leaving more than a cabin behind? I settled onto a chair, knowing that I had to confront not only the woods and whispers, but also whatever remained tethered to my experience, my past and my fear. I might not have faced the beast anymore, but I couldn't dismiss the reality it represented. But as the weight of my contemplation deepened, the door creaked open once again. I turned, palms sweating, as a fleeting figure stepped through the threshold bathed in moonlight, cloaked in familiarity. The shadowy form lingered, just beyond comprehension, and for that brief moment, I couldn't tell if it was seeking me or if I was its prey. What lay ahead was an unraveling mystery, waiting in the dark. As our gazes locked, I felt a surge of understanding pass between us, layered with ambiguity. I still didn't know if I was stepping into the ethereal or lodged in the physical, but it didn't matter. I was home, and that might just mean everything had only just begun.